He's put it all together physically, and his choices on the court are helping make him, the best version of himself that he's ever been. You mentioned Tatum, isn't it crazy how much better he is driving to the basket now?
Yes.
I mean, he's talked this season about how his body's developed, getting stronger. And I was watching some old video of him this season. You watch him in the pass, he'd lower his shoulder, he'd be getting bumped off. And now he's the dude kind of plowing through defenders. He's a better passer now, better driver, taking fewer deep mid-range jump shots, career low, only 10% of those this season, career high from the free throw line, career high amount of shots from behind the arc. So he's put it all together physically, and his choices on the court are helping make him, the best version of himself that he's ever been.
Yeah, and I saw this Instagram post. They have a graph and they show the play with numbers and dots. And then they're showing the video on top of it. And there was this post and it said something like, this is disrespectful. The Celtics ran the same play 3 times in a row or something like that. And I'm like, it's not really disrespectful because it works.
This is disrespectful, all capital letters.
Yeah, right. The disrespect. But it was basically, 2 screens at the top. Tatum comes around them. And there were 3 different outcomes to the way he played that. One was a kick out to the corner where they buried a 3. One, he drove on it. It's this guy you put the ball in his hands, you set some screens for him, and he is now gotten to where he is really playmaking and can kill you every different way. If he's drawing the extra defender, he'll kick out and they get a wide open 3 off that thing. And if they don't, he could power straight to the basket and he can finish through contact. And then if you lay off him, he just shoots 3s. He's special this year, man. Special. I saw him in person earlier this year and I was like, whoa. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. And he just looked, I said this on an episode, he looked like a real superstar for the first time to me. Where it's this isn't just an all-star, awesome player.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
This looked like I'm the best player on the floor by a wide margin. You could take somebody that's never watched basketball, take him to the gym, and say, who's the best player? And they would say, that guy, number 0, give me him. Because he was just unbelievable.
I mean, Tatum's been around forever, it feels like.
Yeah, right? No.
But he's been around in playoff runs, Eastern Conference Finals, obviously makes the finals last year. And it's always been ahead of schedule, right? And now I agree with you, Chris. There's been glimmers, there's been moments, there's been stretches where you're like, oh my God, Tatum looks like a megastar. But this is really the first season. He said it a couple of weeks ago. He says he feels like he's starting this season the way he ended last regular season. I mean, it's carried over. The interesting thing to monitor with him will be he tends to always finish his seasons better than he starts. I wonder if that could follow the same trajectory. Could he get even better, right? Is there even more Tatum could do with, even higher usage? I mean, that's, for playoff time maybe. But that's what they could need at some point. Because like you said, he can play make, man. He can distribute the ball if needed. If he needs to have the ball in his hands even more, in a different offense, he could average 7, 8 assists, right? But with Boston, they have so many playmakers, so many guys, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, on the post, whatever it might be. They have different guys who can distribute. So you don't need that from Tatum. But he's at that level where he could provide it if needed. And also, by the way, we haven't even mentioned he's awesome on defense too.
We also need to mention that though they went through minor or major catastrophe right before the season's about to start, this Joe Mazzulla's done a very, very good job. He's put them, look at what their offense is doing. They're doing this. They're down Robert Williams, who was a very important piece for them last year. And when you've got your best player being that good and you're putting those guys in those kind of positions and the offensive numbers are as freaky as they are and the the record is as good as it is, that could have really, really, really gone sideways for that franchise, losing their leader in Ime Udoka, especially given the circumstances of which. And
the players really like him too.
Yeah, and they had a guy
like
that's just able to move over, and they're even better. And so you got to give this guy credit. That's not an easy look, you could say it's a great job to walk into for sure, and he had experience with those players. You still got to coach them, You got
to give Brad Stevens credit for that decision too, for the feel to say, okay, even though he doesn't have this experience, he's our guy here. Because there's the rumors about them going outside the organization, finding a guy who has experience, a Vogel, whatever it might be. Bringing, it was interesting when the Jazz interviewed Mazzulla for the job. I was like, Joe Mazzulla. They interviewed him, and it turns out like Boston ends up hiring as head coach. I mean, there's a.
But in fairness, that one, Danny had a prior relationship and knew that guy.
But that's what I mean. Like Danny Ainge knew, right? Like they knew the potential of this guy. And that's why they wanted to interview him and Will Hardy. They would have loved to brought both into Utah.
Yeah.
Boston was smart to retain him. Mazzulla told this, or maybe it was Tatum told a story the other day about how Mazzulla shows a picture of a sandcastle at every single film session or practice they have. And he says, because, you could build the greatest sandcastle ever. But, every day, the tide comes in, it washes away. And the message is like, you need to build a new sandcastle every day. And Tatum said how it's cheesy, but the team really buys into it. I thought it was kind of a cool message, and it's the truth, right? Every day's a new one for this team, and it does seem like the way they play. We see championships, teams, or teams that make the finals end up sliding. It feels like this Celtics team, the effort in which they play with, the focus they have on the court, executing the game plan. It does seem like they're building that new sandcastle each day, like sustaining it, keeping it up through April and then May, and then, they hope June. That's a whole different thing. But it feels like they have jumped these hurdles already that a lot of teams that go deep in the playoffs often don't. And that's really a testament to the coaching and them rallying around each other, considering their controversy.
Well, and you talk about these teams over the years where they can have either a conference finals run or an NBA run. And it can really go one of two ways on the next season. Yeah, and it can go one of two ways on the next season, which is, does this make me burn a flame that is brighter than ever before, and now I'm out to prove something? We kind of thought that at the beginning of the season when you saw when the Bills came out the gates. And we were like, oh, boy. Now, that's a team that got their heart ripped out. They went and added some guys, and now they're ready to kill people. And I think that edge came with Boston.